Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to another fabulous workshop put on by the Club Growth team and the Program Quality team. It is my pleasure to welcome John Rich, Distinguished Toastmaster, past International Director. He has helped build over 50 clubs in the district and mentored several others on how to build and maintain clubs. John has personally sponsored 12 clubs, mentored 6, and was a successful club coach twice. In addition, his district was President's Distinguished and number 2 in the world when he was the Lieutenant Governor of Marketing, also known as the Club Growth Director today, chartering over 40 clubs with a net growth of 37. And again, when he was District Governor, also known as District Director today. John Rich has also helped Toastmasters International develop training for club sponsors and club mentors. Please join in the Zoom training to learn how to build, support, and maintain strong clubs. Please welcome Distinguished Toastmaster, past International Director, John Rich. John.
Thank you, Iona. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, so welcome to Club Sponsor, Mentor, and Coach Training. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to spend about 20 minutes each, although I will spend a little longer on the club sponsor and a little less on the club mentor, but about 20 minutes each for my section. And then I believe that Leslie will be doing some breakout rooms afterwards to carry on the discussions while my son and I head off for wonderful Nova Scotia. So I'm going to be jumping back and forth a little bit, but what I'm going to try and do is go through the slides and skip the ones that I'm going to specifically talk about later, if that makes sense, because I do have some other materials that I can pull up, and also I provided them to Michelle, and she can turn around and send them out, share them. Leslie, specifically to you, there's some information on club building, on marketing ambassadors, on different things there, and some of we'll cover today, but some of we won't. And there's also it was something I designed that was supposed to be a living document many years ago for what would be now the district director, the club growth director, and what's the education one called now? Program quality director. So anyway, so we'll do that. So we're starting off with sponsored new clubs. The one thing that I'm going to say is that you need to forget about how your club does things, because every club has little idiosyncrasies, and those are not necessarily the Toastmaster path. They are your club's path. I've been to clubs where they have the royal and loyal toast, where they actually toast to the Queen and country. Way to go, but that's not really what we're trying to do here. So I'll focus on how to conduct an effective Toastmaster meeting, and if it doesn't meet your club's standards, that's because your club probably is doing different things other than what an original club was set up for. So we'll cover that. All right, so what we're going to talk about today, a little bit on enhancing your skills, project management abilities, marketing expertise. We're going to focus on that a little bit more. We're going to talk about the sponsor's duties, how to establish a corporate club and launch a community club, and of course, what the main differences are on those. How to excite people. I've been to clubs, especially when we get into the club coach program, where there's actually a club killer within the club. And the key is to bring new enthusiasm to an excitement, because nothing expands quicker than enthusiasm. If one person comes in, they're all excited, people are going, I'm excited too, but what are we excited about? So try to get that going as well. And obviously, or the party and all that stuff. So organizing new club sponsors, that's what they're supposed to do: set up regular club meetings, complete paperwork, plan, and charter presentation. Those are the things that the sponsor does, which is different than the mentor, because the mentor basically takes over from the moment that that club is chartered, leading it through the next year. I know that there's a minimum, I think it's 6 months. All right, so different types of clubs. You have corporate clubs, community clubs, advanced clubs, specialty clubs. Specialty clubs, there are some, for example, there's University of Toronto has the engineering department has a specific club, and you have to be an engineer. There's other ones that could be a debate club. We had a Toronto debate club. I know it's not in this district anymore. I believe Iona was part of that. So those are some other types of the clubs that you can have. I'm not going to go into this. That's under resources on Toastmasters. You can get the No Club information kit and the book, How to Build a Toastmasters Club. The one thing I will say is this: the book, How to Build a Toastmasters Club, is designed to build a club over 8 meetings. I don't have, especially in corporate clubs, on a community club, yes, I would use that path, but on a corporate club, I really don't have time to spend 8 meetings to charter a club. I've got it down to a science where I charter a club in 3 meetings. I've done it in 2, but that's abnormal, because you have to have the people signed up, the club constitution and bylaws passed, the elections for the executive, and then submitting the paperwork. So that's pretty tough to do in 2 meetings, but you can do it in 3. And the focus number 1 is to get people signed up, obviously. All right, so corporate club. So you need 2 sponsors, and eventually you will need 2 mentors. The district director will have to be involved because they have to approve that the club is going to be there. Club growth director, obviously. And you'll involve other Toastmaster and district leaders. Somebody like myself, as an example, where people call me up. I believe when Randy Jacobs was the what we called, now we call it a club growth director, she had me on speed dial. And whenever she knew I was in Toronto, because I was a professional speaker at the time and traveling all over North America, she called me, and I would go out and visit these businesses. So identify your target. I'm going to come back to this one with some other information about how to do that and how to market Toastmasters. So hang on to that one. We're going to talk about those things when I get there. The key contacts and decision makers, we'll talk all about that with on a new slide. Okay, so we'll skip this slide. Lengthy document here, but I'm going to talk on a couple of things here, because in order to start a club, you need a place to start. Now, one thing that Leslie will get from Toastmasters International is leads. These are people who have contacted Toastmasters International, usually through the website, and said, hey, I want to start a club. I'm interested in getting more information. 2 keys here, Leslie. Number 1 is contact them immediately and let them know who the contact will be to connect with them. This is where I used marketing ambassadors a lot. But here's a key. At every single district event, whether it's a division contest, a division training, district training, conferences, etc., I had a form, and unfortunately it's not on this computer anymore, but I could recreate it. Michelle, I don't know if you can do that for me. I'd just send you the information. But basically, I put one of these forms on every single seat. And something I learned from another professional speaker was how to get people to fill in the form, because a lot of people will see it and they just say, hey, if you know of a company, please fill that in, and they won't. So what I do is I take the form and I hold it up in my hand and I say, you have a form on your chair. Please pick up this form. And then I would take out a pen and I would hold the pen up and say, now grab your pen. I want you to write this information down. First of all, put your name at the top and your phone number and your email address, and then pause. We're good for that in Toastmasters. Then I then say, if you work for a company that has 300 or more employees in one location that does not have a Toastmaster club, please write the name of that company in there. Now, you know that they are the ones that are the contacts for that. But let's say that they don't. Like me, I don't work for a company that size. We have 4 locations, maybe 10, 12 people per branch. Okay, so that's not going to work. So the next question is, do you know of somebody who works at a club or works at a company that does not have a Toastmaster club that would qualify? Write that down and that person's name and contact information. If you're looking for community clubs, if there's a McDonald's in town and there isn't a Toastmaster club there, there should be, because before McDonald's opens a restaurant, they ensure that there's enough population there to support that restaurant. You have never heard of a McDonald's closing down unless it's to close and open up in another location down the road. It doesn't happen because they do the demographics. You don't need to. It's already done for you. So for example, I work in Campbellford. There's a McDonald's that just opened in Campbellford. Guess what Campbellford doesn't have? A Toastmasters club. So start looking for places like that. Referrals are the greatest leads that you can get. Anything that is written down on one of those forms is a warm lead, not a cold lead. But the other thing that I do is a little bit of research. So there's lots of business directories. They're online now. You can go to business directories. You can approach the Chamber of Commerce, boards of trade, those locations, because they have membership. If they have regular meetings, you can ask to be put on their agenda so that you go to the meeting and make a presentation on Toastmasters and why it would be good for them. Focus on the features and benefits. This is where sales comes into play. Features on the, focus on the features and benefits and value to that organization. For example, your people will be more confident about speaking in public. They will be able to perform their jobs better. Their language and what's the word I'm looking for? Grammar will improve as well, and they will be better ambassadors for your organization. This in turn creates individuals that have more confidence. People that have more confidence are more likely to feel good about themselves and the job that they do and do a better job for you. Ultimately, it's a win-win. They improve and you get better employees.
So Mike, John, if I can ask you to repeat that one. I was trying to make some notes and then I kind of ran over myself, but I think that's really important. If you can emphasize that again.
Yes, so you want the features, benefits, and value. So focus on what's in it for the corporation. Having your employees become members of Toastmasters will improve their communication skills, their leadership skills, their ability to present in public. It will give them more self-confidence, which will in turn make them better at their jobs and more effective, which will make your company stand out from the rest. Something like that. I mean, I change it up a little bit depending on the company I'm speaking to, but ultimately the feature, the benefit, and finally the value. What's in it for the corporation? Why should they spend their money on this? And I'm a big believer in having companies that do spend money on it. But having said that, there's something of value when a person puts some of their own skin in the game, whether it's a small amount. For example, if the fees or the dues are, for argument's sake, let's say they're $60. I can't remember what the exchange rate is right at the moment, but let's assume they're $60 at the moment. And the company says, well, we'll pay half or we'll pay 2/3. And the individual has to pay because we want them to believe in their growth as well, not just us. Ultimately, either way works. So focus on those areas, chambers of commerce, running youth leadership programs, because who else attends youth leadership programs, especially for the graduation? Parents. And when they see how much their children have grown, you have a captive audience that you can say, you know, Toastmasters is an organization that has helped, you know, over X million. You can get that off the website. I can't remember what it is. I used to have the jargon all down. You know, X million people improve their speaking and communication skills. Toastmasters is in over 100 and something countries in the world. You know, whatever that gets to the point for what's in it for them. Always think of that good old US radio station, WII-FM. What's in it for me? Schools, colleges and universities. The difficulty with these is, I will tell you, they do not always last, but because you need an internal driver. If you can get a faculty member that's involved in it, even if they are the coordinator, you have a much better chance of success. And let me tell you the one key about starting a college or university club: pizza. I have never met a college or university student that will turn down a free meal. Doesn't happen. So focus on that. Do your kickoff meeting, have the pizza, have the refreshments. Collect dues annually for schools, and always from October 1st to September 30th. Why would I say that? Why not go 6 months?
It's a school year, and they nobody's there in the summer.
Yeah, exactly. They leave in April. So why would they pay their April dues if they know they're not going to be back till September? So have annual dues. Otherwise, you're going to go through this every year. You're going to go like this. And you know, this is a question for Leslie, and it's a rhetorical question, Leslie, but when does Toastmasters International judge your membership? Is it in September or is it in June? Government agencies, similar to corporate clubs, but there's a different process very often with dealing with government, because the money is public funds. So you're going to have a little bit different process here. What I would do is talk to some people that already have clubs open in the organizations. For example, there is the Ministry of Natural Resources in Peterborough. I helped charter that club years and years ago. So, you know, focus on those as well. Marketing programs. You can have something as simple as getting information from TI, like little brochures. We stuck, now this works better for membership than it does for building clubs. Get some of those, you know, all about Toastmasters, little trifold flyers. Put a card, staple a card on it, drop it off at, like, get permission, but doctors, dentist's office, places like that, because people will look there. You know, and don't overlook places that have, you know, there's a lot of talk about the mental health issues these days. In Peterborough, I had some success in putting some flyers in at what they call the Tri-County Resource Center. And we got several new members from there. Now, we haven't repeated that because I haven't been the VP of membership for several years. Everybody wants to reinvent the wheel. We already talked about Toastmasters International leads. Those will go to Leslie and copied to the district director. Drive the territory. Get your marketing ambassadors out there to drive the territory and look for businesses of a large size. You know, they can write them down. You know, one of the cool things is that when you call a company, and here's what I do. I call up and I ask the receptionist, assuming you don't get one of those auto attendants. I ask the receptionist, I say, I need a bit of information from your company. It may take a few minutes, so if you need to put me on hold to take other calls, I'm fine with that. You know, exactly what does your company do? What do they produce, or, you know, whatever, so that you have knowledge about their company. Now, you can Google that first just to see what comes up. But anyway, I asked that question, and I asked who the president is if I don't already have that information from one of the directories that I've checked out. And then I would ask if that person has an assistant. If there's the person who is the CEO of a corporation probably has an assistant. And what is the assistant's name? So then when I call back, I can call and ask for the assistant. And then I talk to the assistant as if I'm talking to the CEO, because believe me, that individual has the CEO's ear. So focus on how to connect to those companies. Setting up your teams. Some companies would have one salesperson, but the reality is that nobody's like that. When I became the Lieutenant Governor of Marketing, or the Club Growth Director as it's called now, as soon as I was elected, before I even took over the role, I contacted Toastmasters International and I found out who the top 3 districts were the previous year. And then I phoned them and I said, what did you do? Well, District 51 at the time, they had been #1 in the world for 3 years in a row. In fact, we didn't kick them out. They came in 3rd to us by the time I was DG or District Director. But the year that I was Lieutenant Governor of Marketing, we ended up coming in 2nd. They beat us by 3 points. So ultimately, I took their process and I followed it, because there isn't a company, a major corporation in the world, that would only have one salesperson. So this is where I got the idea for marketing ambassadors. You need people out there. You cannot possibly call on all the companies and follow up on all the leads. Get people to do that, especially if they have, they're retired or are in sales and have some extra time, have a little bit of flexibility. People that work for companies that are large corporations. And then finally, and this is specifically for you, Leslie, but also for your team, track the contacts. Don't discard them at the end of the year, because a couple of the old leads from the previous year, and I followed up on, and I sat down with the previous Lieutenant Governor of Marketing and got the leads, and I carried them over, and I chartered 3 clubs from those leads that she thought were dead. So don't give up. Sometimes it's just that connection there. Okay, so we're going to get out of this one. Demonstration meeting. I don't like that term. I call them kickoff meetings, because I don't like to demonstrate anything. We're starting a club. We have to have a positive mindset. So these are people that you will need that have some Toastmaster experience. As long as I'm in the district, if you ever want me to help with a club, I will only do it if I am the Toastmaster. And there's a reason for that. As I said, I have it down to a science, and people can learn from that process and then continue that process. And here's the reason. Michelle and I were involved in a club on Canadian Forces Base Borden. We're both ex-military, so we had an inside track there. And we had an individual who needed the sponsor credit. So she was kind of heading this up. And in our first meeting, we had 6 team members, and we had 14 guests, 14 brand new people. And there were 3 of us that were going to join. So that would have put us at 17, meaning we only needed 3 more people to charter. After allowing the individual to speak, the following meeting, I only had 7 people out. And 3 of them were the other people that I mentioned. And when I called them up to find out why they didn't come back, and they said, well, if that's what Toastmasters is about, I'm already that good, or I'm better than that, or I don't need that, whatever it was. But they all had the same thing, and it all came back to that individual, and I should never have let her speak. She kind of hijacked the meeting, and she was a terrible speaker. So as Toastmaster, I can control that. The other aspect about that is the Toastmaster, you need to make sure, remember we talked about the meeting, it has to be a very basic meeting. You have the basic roles, the Toastmaster, the timer, the awe counter, the grammarian, the general evaluator. A speaker, a good speaker, but not a great speaker. You don't have somebody like me come in as a speaker. You have somebody that is a really good speaker and is still trying to improve, because you want the evaluator to be able to find points for growth that other people will see, not for somebody to sit there going, wow, I've got nothing to say. you know, you want that evaluator to be able to bring out some things, and of course a table topics master. Now you see in there, you can combine the counter with the grammarian, and most people do. What you don't see in there is a joke master. You don't see somebody doing a toast to the theme. The Toastmaster does the toast. You don't see somebody doing other extraneous things. There's no spark plugs awards. There's no, other special awards. There is no speaker award. There is no evaluator award. There is no, but you can do table topics award, or you can just explain that we do awards for table topics. I'm not a big, first of all, we only have one speaker at a corporate club. Even at a community club, though, I would get away from that best speaker, best evaluator, because what you're doing is, if I stand up and speak and you've got a brand new speaker, first of all, they're going to be intimidated. So that's the other thing on these clubs. Always put the best speakers at the end so that they don't intimidate the person before them. Any questions on those? You can see that in the chat. I'm almost done here anyway, and then we got to move on to mentorship.
John, is there any specific reason, or would you care to elaborate why you removed the joke master? I think I know why, but if you can mention. Yeah,
if you look in the back of one of the old competent communicator manuals, they have a corporate. See, this is the problem, right? Nobody ever reads that because it's past where their speech topics are, but it tells you what all of the roles are for the executive. It tells you how to run a corporate, or not a corporate club, sorry, a Toastmaster meeting. And there's no joke master there. That's something that is brought in. I incorporate that in community clubs, absolutely. But a corporate club, you have 1 hour. Actually, you probably have 50 minutes to have a meeting, because they need 5 minutes to get there, 5 minutes to get back to their chair. The most important thing is to have the maximum number of people participate. And in a 50-minute meeting, I can get 20 people to participate. 2 speakers, 2 evaluators, the roles that we already mentioned, and the people that participate in table topics. And by the way, if you are in a community club, very often they do table topics first, which is fine. In a corporate club, never do table topics first. Always do it after the speeches, because if a speaker goes too long, you can cut the number of table topics people down. If you do it in reverse, what are you going to do? Tell a speaker they can't speak because somebody went overtime or took too long? So reverse those, okay? Select a team, select Toastmaster for various roles, and invite high-level representatives. Corporate club, you want to invite the CEO, the head of training if they have one, the HR director. You want to have people there that are going to promote this within the company, or that you're going to get buy-in so they can do it. I remember chartering a club at IBM. This was the first club I ever chartered, and it took me 3 months to charter the club. 3 months. Now I have it down to 3 meetings. I didn't realize that we were only allowed to send 1 email blast out. That was it. So you better have your message there. Always, by the way, this guest sign-in book, no. Have printed copies of the membership application on the chair. Again, at the end of the meeting, do your last little pitch for it, and then hold up your membership form. Please pick up your membership form. Please take out a pen. Have extra pens there. Anybody not have a pen? We have one. And get them to fill it out right then and hand it in. Don't let them bring it back the next meeting. Hand it in. All right. So let's get past that. Okay, so after the demonstration, we're going to introduce sponsors and mentors, and the mentors, of course, are going to stay with the club and question and answers. Okay. Now, by the way, that last one there, where it said, okay, what it said was success stories. Yes, you want to have success stories from it. Now, I'm not going to spend any time on the community club. I will say that they are harder. The reason they are harder is because you're relying on people getting people, not an email blast going out from a corporation. two things that I think are really important, and I'll add one bonus tip in there. Number one is have a location that is not very costly. See if an organization, whether you've got a YMCA or something like that, retirement homes very often will let you have rooms for free, especially if you make it open to their residents, which is kind of cool too. We do it, at the Advanced Club in Oshawa, the Spotlight Speakers. We do it at a retirement home there, not during COVID, obviously, but it's free. The second thing is find places, if it's got a local newspaper, put articles in there, build yourself up as an expert on communication and leadership so that you can have a little weekly article. They're always looking for stuff. You may have to pay for the first ad, but usually they will let it because it's a community service. Okay, these are available on the thing. This is going to say 2 sponsors, 2 mentors. So I'm going to get out of this one and show that the bonus tip is, if you can, go out and approach local businesses, chambers of commerce, back to the marketing there. Because once you get a few corporations, a few companies, even if they're small companies on board, you have a guaranteed draw from a place. And never forget to call on the local government. We actually had a club charter in Durham for exactly that reason there. I'll pause now. Any questions on sponsoring?
I have a question. You mentioned having the application form ready to be filled out, but in a virtual environment, we can't do that.
No.
So what would you suggest then?
Email it to them.
Okay.
I still follow the process. Email them the form. Say, I've emailed you the form. Please take a few minutes as soon as this meeting is over to fill out that form and email it back. Any other questions? All right, we're moving on to mentors. This is the stuff we're going to cover, but we'll just keep going there. What's their benefit? They share the expertise. Prove yourself as a valuable leader. Bottom line, people, the reason for being a mentor, the most important is the very last one. You earn credit towards the DTM, and you're furthering Toastmasters. Being a mentor, as you heard, I've personally sponsored 12, but mostly I helped other people so that they sponsor them because they needed credit. I've mentored 6, and mentors, can become members unless it's a closed club. So I highly recommend that you do that. Basically, it is an opportunity for growth, but it also gives you the credit that you need. Those questions you can look at on your own there. So distinguished club program progress. I use that form right at the start. As soon as the club is chartered, as a mentor, I pull out that chart, because just like individuals need goals, we need common goals that are going to get us all on the same track. So pull that up, have one there, even if it's online, if you're doing an online club. Current and back issues of the leader letter. Yes, I have that, and so that you have the Toastmasters books there, people can read, they get an idea what they're going to get. How do we ensure the club is strong and fully functional? A lot of that has to do with the executives. If you can, be a member of the executive, but not the president. Take on a role that is not the strongest leadership role. I wouldn't mind if somebody said they were going to be if it's a community club, they're going to be the vice president of membership. That would be okay. but I would say more likely take on a role, either vice president of public relations or secretary, sergeant at arms. Do not become treasurer. You'll be sucked into that for life. So make sure that the officers understand their duties. I do have a thing that I'll send out that does have all the duties of the roles, but as I say, they're in the back of the handbook. They're on the website. You can look up those. These are things that the club can do that you can add in there: the invocation, pledge to the flag, patriotic oath, best of meeting awards. Clubs can determine that. Don't do that in your kickoff meetings. Let them decide. I like every club that I've ever belonged to, if it didn't have a joke master when I got there, it had it shortly after that, because I'm one of those guys that never forgets a joke. I'll even leave you with a Toastmaster joke at the end of the day. So having quality club meetings, preparation, the more prepared you are. There was a military process that, Michelle would be familiar with, and anybody else in the service, and it's called an appreciation, and it is aim, factors, courses, plan. What are the aim? What are we trying to do? What factors are involved in this? What things can influence it? And then what courses are open to us, and then developing a plan. Time spent in preparation is never wasted. So make sure that the meetings are prepared for. Plan club meetings. Work with the person who is the vice president of education to do that. Come up with new ideas. Help people out, especially with things like table topics. Bring in Chinese fortune cookies. Bring in material thing, like assuming we're not online, but even online, I could still hold something up and say, do a speech about this. Give them ideas. Create a member service perspective. So what are we doing for the members? Now, this obviously usually falls under the VP of Education's role, but what do they want to get out of it? Okay. Build and maintain membership. You've got to have 20 members. So always be recruiting, always be recruiting, always be recruiting. Benefits of building membership. I'm going to be selfish here for a second and talk in terms of the district. No district has ever missed being distinguished because they didn't hit their educational goals. Every single district that was not distinguished because they didn't meet their club or membership goals. One of the districts I mentored, with a week to go, all of their education things, everything was done. We needed one more club to charter, not because we needed the club, but we needed 18 more members. And if we chartered the club, that would give us 20. And I drove all the way to Pennsylvania to do the final meeting before the end of the year and chartered the club that night. So we need members. That's also why two of the points on your distinguished club program are about members. And the last point there, interesting and fun club meetings. I'll tell you something, if it's not fun, people will not come back. People retain information longer when they're having fun. They learn more when they're having fun, and they will come back if they're having fun. So we're going on membership again there. So have we talked about membership yet? So attracting new members. Boy, that was a filler word. So attracting new members. Club operates more efficiently, and current members are informed and interested. You need to sit down with your VP of membership and your VP of public relations, and you need to have a plan on how you're going to continue to attract new members. Have we said new members yet? Part of that is, of course, bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, to use the old cliche. The one thing I will mention here for the mentors before I wrap up is that when somebody joins Toastmasters, they join for a reason. And usually we take the time, and I'm going to talk a little bit about when somebody walks through the door, because I've seen people do a data dump. I don't know if you've ever seen that. They say, "Oh, welcome to Toastmasters. I'm glad you came out. You'll learn how to speak in with confidence in public, and we do table topics so that you can learn how to speak on your feet. For when your boss comes up and they give you that question just out of the blue, and blah 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 blah. And we have a joke masters. You can learn how to tell a joke, and you can learn how to do a toast. And we have leadership, and we have leadership opportunities. You get blah, 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 blah. That's what happens. Here's what should happen. Share, why did you come to Toastmasters? What brought you out this evening? And Cher would reply and say, "You know what? A friend of mine told me that I could improve my presentation skills because I have to do presentations at work and it drives me nuts. So what am I going to talk about to share? I'm going to talk about how this is going to help her do that specific thing. Somebody else may come in and say, I'm always put on the spot by my boss. What am I going to talk about? Table topics. Focus on the one or two things that brought them out. Now, here's the problem. When they've been in the club a long time, when do we go back and ask that question again? Because what brought them through the door isn't necessarily what's going to keep them there. You have probably seen hundreds, thousands of people, depending on how many clubs you've been in, but I've been in, a long time, and I've been in over 20 years, and I've been members. Sometimes I've been members of like 6, 7 clubs at the same time, going to 3 corporate meetings a week and 2 evening meetings, and, then an advanced club twice a month and stuff like that. It's just, you have to stay in touch with your member. Because what brought them there won't keep them there. And there's been so many people that come, they get what they need, and they leave because we haven't identified what is next for them. So please make sure you do that. You can't retain members without that. Now, as a mentor to the club, that's really not going to be an issue for you because you're not going to be around long enough for that. So if we haven't mentioned this already, we're going to use everybody say it together, Distinguished Club Program, Club Success Plan. Absolutely. All right, so we're going to get out of this one. Before I start, Club Coach, questions from the audience.
In your opinion, should a mentor serve 6 months or 1 year with the club?
Well, first of all, in order for them to get credit, they have to serve until the club. I think no, is it 6 months or 1 year? I'm sorry, I'm having a brain cramp here, but I believe that it's 6 months. I believe it's 6 months.
Yeah.
I have never only served for 6 months because unless there's another Toastmaster in there, for example, on a corporate club, if you've got an internal Toastmaster there that is part of the club, usually they will be a mentor too, then 6 months is fine. But if you think that a club after 6 months is good to go on its own, no, not a chance. Go back to yourself. How effective were you? Especially if you're one of those clubs that's meeting, twice a month or something like that. How effective were you at your job in the club after 6 months? I mean, even now, the one thing I'll say to you specifically, Leslie, this time in January, in February, you're going to look back and say, holy crap, I wish I had known this at the start. And by the time you're finished your role, you're ready to do your role because now you know how to do your role. But guess what? You're no longer in the role. We're putting somebody else in. That's why I did create living documents that never lived. They never survived. People have to stop creating the wheel. Any other questions before we move on to Club Coach? I'm very conscious of my time here. So.
Yes, so there's a question in the chat, John. Can you just
Okay.
go to the executive meeting as a support without having a role in the club itself? That's from Janice.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The problem with that is that if you're not on the executive, you don't have a vote at the meetings. You can have influence, but you don't have a vote. When you go to, by the way, there's no requirement for the mentor to become a member of the club. I believe that you should. I believe that you should for that exact reason. You have a vote. Because you know, there are people that will try to hijack clubs. They will make it their own little personal project. You know, I was involved with an individual like that, and we had to ask her to leave. That's the other reason for voting people in, because you can vote them out. Any other questions? All righty. Club coach. Club coach may be the most difficult job, and it's the one that I'm going to spend the least amount of time on, but there are more resources available for you. The reason that club coach is the most difficult job is because you're coming into a club where there's already burnout. People have already lost their enthusiasm, and you may have a club killer in there. The club that I currently belong to is Peterborough Toastmasters, and I, as president, I have just requested 2 club coaches. And the reason that I requested 2 club coaches is because we're struggling. We have a club killer. I won't say the individual's name because that would not be right. But she's a club killer. She doesn't think that guests should be allowed to make comments at the end of the evening because we're putting them on the spot. So she did away with that. She doesn't believe that, that we need to have somebody following up with guests during the week. Phone calls, an email is sufficient because we shouldn't be bugging them. You know, we might turn them off. There was a little side story. Many years ago, there was a woman, her name's Isabel Hershaw. She's still alive. Her husband has passed away. Yeah, she has a club named after her, Hershaw Toastmasters. And this very first conference I was at, the person who was taking over as district governor was doing her opening speech, you know, and as the new district governor. And she said, you know, when I came to a Toastmasters meeting, and I, you know, I kind of enjoyed it, but I was a school teacher, and I really believed that, you know, it really wasn't for me. And I had decided that I was not going back. You know, they asked me for, you know, comments at the end of the evening, and I said, you know, I enjoyed the evening and that, but I went home and I convinced myself that I didn't need Toastmasters. And then in the middle of this week, this little Scottish sounding woman called me up, and that would be Isabel, and said, Lassie, did you enjoy the meeting? She said, yes, I did. She says, that's great. We'll see you next week. Bring your checkbook. And she did. And here she was taking over as district governor. Who knew?
Amazing.
Person that wasn't going to join. So you've got to get past that life-sucking person. And club coaches can do that. First of all, you cannot be a member of the club to be a club coach. But once you have been officially appointed to the club, you can join the club. There's a key factor in that. Make sure you are officially appointed, that you ever receive notification from Toastmasters International saying you are a club coach or you will not get credit. Then you may join. As a club coach, I joined all 3 clubs that I was assigned as a coach to. You notice I said 3, but I only have credit for 2. The criteria was different back when I was the club coach the first time. And the corporation decided that they weren't going to pay anymore, and the individuals decided they weren't going to pay, so the club died. Even though they were distinguished back then, they required an additional, you had to have X number of members, not just growth in membership, which they do now. You had to have 20 members. in order to be. It was never about the Distinguished Club program in the beginning. So that was my first foray, and it crashed and burned.
So Mandeep has a question, John. Can a person transfer into the club once they've been appointed as a club coach?
Yes, they can transfer in. They could be can't be reinstated because you got to be a Toastmaster to be a coach. But yes, you can transfer in. You can be a member of 2 clubs, or just, as you said, transfer in. Absolutely. But make sure you're appointed first. All right. So yeah, qualifications. That's all in the material. I'm not going to go over that. I have about 8 minutes left here. So why are they needed? I've already discussed that. How to be an effective club coach. Without going into too much elaboration here, you've got to be a good listener. You have to be very observant. You have to identify what the issues are. And what I would strongly suggest that you do is start off with the Toastmaster program called Moments of Truth. How many of you do Moments of Truth in your club every single year? Raise your hands. Okay, I saw one hand go up. Any others? Nobody else is putting their hand up. Oh, okay, so I got 3 up. All right. Because the reality is, oh, was that a 4th? Or it's just jumping, my screen's just jumping. Okay. Moments of Truth. Moments of Truth gives people the opportunity to identify what they know are the issues. And then the issues can be addressed. You cannot go into any environment thinking you know until you know. In the military would say time spent on recce is seldom wasted. Recce is reconnaissance. Time spent on reconnaissance is seldom wasted. Go in, watch, learn, listen. All right, so of course we have to build rapport. You'll get these slides, you can go through them. The 4th one down there, enables the club to achieve goals. So once we have identified goals, and we're going to use the Distinguished Club program and the club success plan to do this, enables the club to achieve goals. Now, I'm going to focus on the word enables for just a second here, because enabling means you can't ram this down people's throat. Another cliche, you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink, of course. So you have to create the environment where people in the club will take the responsibility. Focus on how to, hey, you're doing a great job. Nobody has ever said, wow, that guy said I did a great job. That really sucked. That was a mean thing to say. Nobody's ever said that. So be enthusiastic. Tell people, hey, you're doing a great job. Even if you come across like, some of Jim Carrey's characters, over the top, just be that person.
So John, we have a question on how would you deal with a club killer if you were the club coach? How would you have that person's attitude or behavior switch up? Is that possible?
Sure. The first thing I do is I have a one-on-one with them, and I speak to them with enthusiasm. And I tell them, I make them feel like they're really important, because they believe that they are the reason the club still exists, not the reason the club is dying. Okay, so you need to get back to grassroots, and I would call them aside, and Cher's right below me in this, so I'm going to be looking as if I'm looking at Cher. So, and I'd say, Cher, I'm here to help this club, and I've noticed that you are one of the people that can be relied on here, and I really need your help. Can you do that for me? Nod.
Absolutely.
So they will nod. Absolutely, because you've just told them how important they are, and it is really important for us to get together and to find ways to build people up and get people involved here. And always ask. I know it sounds repetitive, but ask and get confirmation, because that plants the seed in their brain. Now, Cher does neuro-linguistic programming, so you need to keep planting seeds in their head, and those seeds will eventually sprout, because through Toastmasters, we're going to help people to grow and to glow. And to do that, we focus on, because you don't know what their story is. You don't know why they are the way they are or what's going on. Like when I sat down with the individual in the club and I said, we're getting a coach. And I said, but I need you on board. I need your help here. And she's like, oh yeah, well, you know, and I'm retired. You know, John, I've been so burnt out. Absolutely, I understand that. Let's focus on one thing that you can do to help us here. How about this? And she agreed. All right. Yes, develop diplomacy skills, and that's kind of what we were just talking about there. These are things that you're going to be doing, and you may not have that before you come in there. By the way, salespeople are probably better at this one. The increased proficiency as a facilitator and a negotiator, because they're always negotiating. Salespeople are always negotiating. All right.
People are loving your experience, John. We have 2 more questions in the chat. First one is, how do you approach a president who's a dictator?
I'll be honest with you. Every time I've had that situation, the person hasn't lasted, because when they are confronted with that process, and especially once you've done moments of truth will identify that from multiple members, multiple sources. You know, because what I consider a dictator, like, you know, I don't know your politics, any of your politics, but I could say, you know, Trudeau's a dictator. Anybody that stood up to him within his own party, he's gotten rid of. He's a dictator. But you may be a liberal and love Trudeau, and you may not see that. You may, you know, say he is not, absolutely not. So you don't know. So go by the moments of truth, because they will identify that individual. You know, make sure it's them telling you, not you telling them. But if you do identify that, they usually don't last, because once you get the enthusiasm going and you get other people involved and you can stop them from telling, you know, telling is not selling. Telling is not selling. If I want you to buy something from me, if I want you to buy into Toastmasters, I cannot go, you know, and you will do this, you will do this, you will do this. That's never going to work. That's never going to work doing this. I have to listen to people, what their issues are, find out why they're being like that. Maybe they've had experience in the past where people haven't done it, or, you know, maybe they run a daycare. Who knows?
There's a
another question there.
There's a fun further question. What training do you suggest for coaches? And I'm thinking, well, Toastmasters has some great training for coaches. Do you have any quick get started training that you suggest beyond today?
I'm not at my house. I'm actually at Michelle's house today. So I do have some books and things like that I've used in the past. But yes, Toastmasters, I would say there. In fact, when you go to resources, I don't know if I downloaded it. I think I sent it to Michelle though, so she can provide that. But there's a resource specifically for club coaches, and it's got kind of more of the club coach training. But find a mentor. You know, we just talked about mentors. Find somebody who has been a club coach, who has been a successful club coach. Talk to them. Find out what they've done in the past. You know, but I do have, you know, I taught communication and leadership for over 12 years. So I do have books on coaching and or leadership books that have sections within them that are about being a club coach, or being, sorry, not a club coach, being a coach. Another question there, or I'm almost out of time, and I got a couple more slides that I really want to cover, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end there. I'm sorry, Leslie, if I'm taking a few minutes. That is very un-Toastmasterly, but DTM stands for don't time me.
That's all good. You're enjoying.
Okay, so we already talked about this. Observe the club dynamics. Do your members your moments of truth. Work with individuals. Introduce yourself. Call them during the week. Email them. I'm a big believer in you know, face-to-face. Go out for a coffee with them. I know we're in pandemic and stuff like that, but yeah, minimum, pick up the phone, call somebody up, because what they discuss with you is different than what they will put in a text or an email. Absolutely. Plus, you can listen for intonation, pace, pause, pitch, volume, things that will identify, you know, woman without her man would be nothing. Woman without her man would be nothing. Those are the exact same words, exact same order. But if I sent them out in an email or a text and they did not have proper punctuation so that you could hear the way it was being said, you would misinterpret it. Pick up the phone. And there's one of your resources, by the way. Use the Club Coach Troubleshooting Guide, because that's right. It's downloadable right off the TI website. Okay, number 2 on this one, emphasize teamwork. You got to get people. You can't do this yourself. You need people on board. And you know, when I was LGM, when I was the Lieutenant Governor of Marketing, the district governor, her theme for that year, when we were still allowed to use themes, her theme for that year was encourage by asking. Encourage others by asking. You know, if you say, you know, you've been at meetings and you say, who would like to do a speech next week? And you get nothing. So here's the thought. You know, Leslie, I know you've been working on this. How about doing a speech next week? I believe that you would be really good at that. What are my chances of you doing it now that I've specifically asked you versus saying, who would like to do this? Like, focus on them. Again, focus on their needs, focus on them, focus on what's in it for them. You want people to help you, ask for their help. You know, lean on me when you're not strong. Terrible for a Saturday morning. Let them know that you're there to help them, and encourage clubs to use other clubs as models. In fact, involve another club as part of the club coach team. You know, like in Peterborough, we don't have a lot of local clubs. So we have people that come all the way from Lindsay, which is about a 40-minute drive, to come to the club to help us out. And they take turns at that. We only have, we're getting 2 club coaches, but we get people, Tony Nelson has been a huge impact on this club. And yeah, he's been around for a long time, a lot longer than me. So have we mentioned moments of truth? All right. You may have to redo this and teach them how to plan and produce club meetings, because you may notice that they're doing things that are off the charts. The moment we started instituting, having members guests make comments at the end of the evening, we started seeing more interest from the individuals, because they may have sat there and chosen not to participate in table topics. I always ask them if they'll participate. Or if I'm doing it, instead of singling people out, I pass an envelope around with the table topics in it. And when it's their turn, they can choose to do a table topic or talk about themselves for a minute. Oh, by the way, in corporate clubs, limit table topics to 1 minute. And if they go past 1:30, clap them down. You don't have time. You've got 50 minutes to hold a club meeting. All right. Have we mentioned moments of truth? Quality clubs, memberships, member service perspective. So you need to be asking them what they need from the meetings, what they're getting from the meetings, and that will allow you to plan your meetings accordingly. 20 members, yep. Contests. By the way, a cool one for membership contests. Yes, they do have these ones that are there, but have the club set up little, like 2 groups, and have a steak and burger night. Okay, so the winning team gets steak, the losing team gets burgers, or whatever, hot dogs for the losers, and Swiss chalet for the winners, whatever. Just do something that gives them an award, because when you create that friendly competition, and I'm not talking the cutthroat kind, when you have that friendly competition, people will get on board. And of course, you've got those awards. All right. So we talked about membership over and over today. Yes, this is critical. You need to continually recognize achievement. progress charts are really cool to do. And I do that basically on a weekly meeting. Even if I have somebody that has not met it, but they've moved closer. Like, for example, I don't have to put up a star saying that, we got another educational award or another leadership award. I can say, oh, last week, Iona did a speech that moved her closer to achieving her goal of this, which helps the club get this goal. So, and by the way, by identifying Iona in that, I have now also put praise on her. I have now identified that she has achieved something. And how do you feel when you hear that, Iona? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. People love that recognition, and that's what Toastmasters is about. All right, so we're going to make sure that we recognize people. By the way, if it's a corporate club, this is a cool one, because when I rescued should I name the bank? It was RBC. When I went down and rescued that club and was a successful coach there, I got the person who was they weren't director of HR, but it was HR. It had a different name, but anyway, they were in HR, and they would send out an email blast saying that so-and-so had just achieved this level, in like competent communicator. They just achieved their competent communicator award. And so people are going, first of all, they're going, wow, they just achieved this. And then second thing they're going is, what is a competent communicator award? Where do I get one? And then boom, you got more people coming out to the meetings. So publicize the club's achievement in the district club program. I'm jumping ahead here. Looking at the club mission, you can read that. Teach club how to use the Distinguished Club Program and Club Success Plan. If you haven't done that right from day one, then you've missed your opportunity. And this all goes into the Club Success Plan, so we're skipping to the very end. Last chance for comments, and I am 9 minutes over.
Mandeep has a question about, if you are allowed a maximum of two coaches and one is assigned, can another one be assigned later? I catch your question,
Absolutely.
Mandeep?
Yeah, there's no time limit unless the club has already reached distinguished status, because then the club coach has fulfilled their requirements. I should say there's another requirement, isn't it? I think they have to have there's a number of people that it has to be below. Is it used to be like 8 or something like that, but whatever it is.
More or less than half.
Sorry?
I think it's 9. 9.
9? Okay, so whatever that number is, if they're over that number, then they no longer can qualify as a coach. But until those two things, yes,
12.
absolutely.
Oh, 12? Okay, somebody said 12.
Yeah, it could be. Look, it's been a while since I've done this, and I probably should. I've got, I'm as I said, I'm leaving for Nova Scotia shortly, so I've had a few other things that I've been doing this past week, but I should have had that information for you. That's poor preparation and planning, poor reconnaissance on the instructor. Any other questions?
So if you're a club coach for 6 months, is there anything else you have to achieve in order to be eligible for your DTM?
Well, first of all, to be a successful club coach, the club must be distinguished. So whatever timeline that is, that might, I like the one club the very first one that I did not achieve club coach. I was a club coach. I was assigned to that club for over a year when they finally pulled the plug on it, after they finally reached distinguished, but distinguished wasn't the criteria back then, so that it was different. It was totally focused on membership. It had nothing to do with you had to reach 20. So even though we were distinguished, because that allowed you, if you had a growth of 8 and this, and you achieve your educational awards and training and all of those things, if you did that, then you were distinguished. So they reached distinguished, but they never reached 20. So I never achieved it, and the company pulled the plug because they said they wouldn't pay anymore. So it's not a 6-month thing. It's not like mentors, club coach. You're there until they're distinguished or you don't get credit. So I'm not sure how to word that to the question.
No, I think that covered what the question was. It's not just a time limit, it's an achievement level as well.
Exactly.
John, could you quickly tell us about motivating people, motivating members who don't want to be motivated? You have covered it, but I would like, I know that you did this
well,
phenomenally.
first of all, you really need to try and get them on board, get them enthusiastic in that, and ask for their help. If they choose not to do that, and if they've have been identified, especially if it's in moments of truth, as one of the issues, call a meeting, vote them out. And this is one of the reasons why I like to be on the executive. You know, because then I can put a motion on the floor. If I'm a member of the club, if I'm not a member of the club, I can't do that. If I'm a member of the club, then I put a motion on the floor and I say, you know, I move that we vote Cher Cunningham out of the club. And make sure you've got the seconder lined up. Yeah, of course, sorry, Cher, but I know you love me anyway. So yeah, so I would do that. If no amount of convincing will work on the individual, you may need to remove them. And that's why if we voted them in, we can vote them out. But ultimately, they usually leave. One of the clubs that Janice Weir, when she was district governor, I actually believe it was the year before that. Anyway, she called me and asked me to come and help because she was a club coach at this one club, and there was an individual, and she was actually intimidated by the individual. So invite Captain Rich, you know, that'll sort that out. So we had a conversation, and I basically told the person that you're being a bully. You either stop it or we're voting you out. And he said, you can't do that. So next meeting, I joined the club that meeting. As soon as my membership was approved, I called for a vote and the individual was voted out. But you know, that should be the last possible thing that you do. Ultimately, you want to get them on board. So focus on what you can control. What you can control is how you react to them, how you act and react. Build them up, you know, find out what it is. Ask them the question, like, why are you doing this? You know, do it in a way that makes them non-defensive, because if they're defensive, then they're gonna first of all, they're gonna pass blame, and that's not what you want to do. I'm really eating into Leslie's time here, so last question or two, and I gotta run.
One of the things that resonated with me is the story you told about Elizabeth Hershaw and the lady that was in two minds about joining the club. Who is the lady? What's her name?
Isabel Hershaw. Oh, the one. Oh, her last name. Oh, the one that was district governor. Her last name was Wolf. I'd have to go back because it was my first year in Toastmasters. I would have to go back and look at it, whether it was Leslie Wolf or something like that. I actually only met her one other time, and I told her how profound that was to me, because when I went to Toastmasters, I didn't go to Toastmasters because I believed I needed Toastmasters. I went to Toastmasters because my business partner was too shy to go to the meeting by herself. And at the end of the meeting, she said, we should join. And I said, do you have a rat in your pocket? Because you said we, and there's only two of us standing here. And she said, no, it's, you know, it's education. The company will pay. And I said, it's our company. It's still us paying. And finally, I agreed to stay for 1 year. After I saw how much it impacted her and her ability to speak in public, she took on the role of the chair of the Vaughan Business Achievement Awards dinner and spoke in front of over 300 people. And when I saw that, I had one of those lump in the throat moments that I'm getting right now just talking about it. I was like, that's Toastmasters. So I stayed. And the very first female president and very first female Toastmaster said, if you stay in Toastmasters long enough to get everything you can out of Toastmasters, you will never get out of Toastmasters. And on that note, it has been my honor and my absolute pleasure to be here with you and share this morning. If you do have questions or comments, feel free to forward them. I don't know if they've shared my emails, but they're welcome to do that. I do have other resources that I can provide for you, and I've passed most of those on to Michelle. I will reach out to people like Leslie, yourself, and Iona, and having a brain cramp here, Chris Nelson, and provide the once living document that died, and hopefully it will help you in your terms. If you do have questions, because I know things have changed, I have not stayed as relevant as maybe I could have, but when you live in the middle of nowhere, it's harder to do that. So I will bid you adieu, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, John, for your presentation today, and for all that you give to Toastmasters. We appreciate you more than words can say. And I think the club growth team is going to have you on speed dial to Toastmaster the meeting. That's the most important thing we look for. So thank you for offering. Enjoy your weekend, and thank you for spending the morning with us.
Thank you.
Leslie, back to you. I will let you lead this next portion of the meeting. Leslie.
Yeah, thank you very much, Iona. And I'm really happy to, thanks very much, John, for that awesome presentation. How many people, by show of hands, found that presentation very useful? So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna basically have a session, kind of like a moderated session. I'll be your moderator. And what I'll do is I'll call on a number of people to basically share their experience in some of these roles, because I find that kind of like what John did when he was talking about some of those stories about, him being whether it's a sponsor, a mentor, or coach, it really resonated and give us those things that we hold on to in our memory and we can learn from in terms of best practices and how to conduct these roles. So we are looking for a number of sponsors, coaches. We have so many brilliant ideas. If you're looking to sponsor a club, just let us know. We have a lot of great ideas. We're just looking for bodies to take up these roles. So I want to ask, I'm going to start, I'll pick on our PQD because I know she's very enthusiastic and she has a whole lot of experience. So Iona, can you tell us about one of the clubs that you had the opportunity of being the club sponsor, and what did that mean to you in terms of what did that give you personally?
I've sponsored several clubs, and the most it was very enjoyable because Meadowvale Toastmasters is one of them. The Canadian Women Physicians is another one. Amazon Canada Toastmasters is another one. And there are several that I've done. But I think the most enjoyable part about the community and the corporates were easy. And I remember the first time I made the cold call, I wasn't sure that I could even do this. But I picked up the phone and I said, look at me today. And I related my personal experience to Toastmasters. And I said, I couldn't speak to you today and tell you about the benefits, but I can tell you what it's done for me. Today, I can walk into a boardroom at work and speak to project managers and to the high level executives of my company and sell anything that they say. And I'll give you an example. And this is exactly what I told them in the meeting. I just said to them, my manager said to me, you're presenting tomorrow on business continuity for our department for the entire company. And Toastmasters came to play. It was 5 o'clock. And I'm like, 5 o'clock, I'm in Hamilton. There's no way I'm going to drive all the way back. So I sat there and I did what we did in Toastmasters, made a quick outline, did a few handouts, went over it in the morning, prepared a PowerPoint, walked into the boardroom and presented on business continuity for the maintenance and engineering department. I can tell you that before I joined Toastmasters, I could not have done that. And that's what I said to Amazon Canada. And I said, you're one of the biggest companies in the world. You are the forefront of technology, but can your people speak to one another on Teams? Can they deliver? Do they have those skills? And this is what Toastmasters does. We have a curriculum that works. And that was my selling point. And within 2 weeks, we were chartered. So that was so amazing. And I stand back and think, I actually chartered Amazon Canada. On the community side, it was really good as well, because I said, I want to build one of the best clubs in the district. What does it take? So Toastmasters is an educational curriculum, and you sell that. And every meeting, when you attended a Meadowvale meeting, you would learn something: how to start a speech, end a speech, body of a speech, write a speech, evaluation, leadership. And we kept repeating this over and over again. And suddenly we grew, not from 20, 30, 40, 60 members. And you kept them engaged. And so it's like falling in love, you know? You think you can't do it, and then you walk in there, and then you have this community club that just takes on, and then people take on roles, and you love it. So sponsor a club. It's like nothing you've done before, and when you've done it, you look back and you think, wow, it actually works. Corporate to community. Community takes time, and they always start for a reason. So find the reason. And even in your own clubs, what's the value that you can give back to your members? And if you can listen, I'm here for the leadership. I'm here for the communication. I'm here for the speaking. I'm here to gain my confidence. You listen, and then you can translate that into value. And that is the best part about Toastmasters.
Very good. Very good. That's awesome. I really like that Amazon story and how you use your own experience and story to tell them about what the benefits are, and you actually show them the benefits right there and demonstrated it. So I made an omission. I should have introduced our club sponsor mentors chair. I know she's in the meeting. Joy, would you mind telling us something, maybe introducing yourself? Let me just give you the spotlight.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm Joy. I'm the club sponsor and mentor chair. The role is a new one, so I'm still growing into it. I'm taking in a lot of the information. On a personal note, I have a somewhat similar story, but less panicky one from the one Iona shared. My Toastmaster journey actually started because my manager, he strongly recommended Toastmaster. I'm not the person that speaks a lot in meetings, and I would always step back. He was well aware of the fact that I was hardworking, but he just wanted me to be able to sell myself and to be able to step up for those times that he was not able to do so. After my first couple of meetings, and I told him I had given my first speech, he said, okay, that's very good. Now I want you to give a presentation. I was able to smile through it. That's one thing Toastmaster has taught me, to project confidence, and you will be confident once you step up. Don't say no to responsibilities. That's also something I got from Toastmaster. Always raise your hand, especially if somebody was able to see that potential in you, then step up to the plate. So in my new role, I hope to be able to work with mentors and sponsors in their journey to making it successful, and hopefully, obviously, get my DTM point from it as well. Thank you.
Very good. And I like what you said, don't say no to new responsibilities. I would prefer to say, don't say no to opportunities, because very often it comes over as a new responsibility that you have. Yeah, you have the responsibility, but it's also an opportunity to learn and grow, do something you've never had an opportunity to do. So going around the table, I'd like to pick on someone else. This is kind of like table topics, right? On the Saturday morning, why not have some interesting. So I like to call on Michael. I met Michael when he did a presentation at my work club. And it was such an amazing presentation. Everyone was talking about that presentation and Toastmasters and who is this guy, Michael Zitney. So I know you're a new area director, you're a current area director. So maybe you would like to tell us a little bit about yourself and your Toastmaster journey and what you would like to get out of this training, what you got out of the training that we had today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Club Growth Director and fellow Toastmasters. I'm, as Leslie said, I'm an area director this year, and this is my first year. I've been a Toastmaster for 14 years now, and this is my first year in the district. And I always thought, wow, I really enjoyed being a club member, and I did all the executive roles. But there's a whole other world to Toastmasters. That is, it just expands, and it's so exciting and interesting, especially if you've been involved at the club level, to want to bring that enthusiasm and the experience, the education you learn through trying different things to clubs that might be struggling or finding their way, or new clubs that you can help set a positive for. That's why I'm elected to be an area director this year, and I'm finding it really challenging and exciting. One of the challenges is one of the clubs in my area is struggling so badly, and we're trying to get them help and so on, but they count already in my statistics. So I'm already down one to start off with. So I'd love to be able to sponsor a new club and bring up the area and add to my statistics if possible, and help bring that enthusiasm to other people. I'm not a natural salesperson, I have to say. Every time John talked about going in there and talking about this and that, I kind of bristled, but I'm looking forward to taking on the challenge. And I'm really very strongly enthusiastic about Toastmasters, so I think maybe that's going to come out. I do have a technical question, a specific question for you guys, maybe for Joy and Leslie and anybody else. When we go, and I'm envisioning all of the different companies I can go in there and try and sell Toastmasters to, but when they ask, how much will it cost or what's involved, is there an actual number for sponsoring a club for Toastmasters, to sponsor a new club? What would it cost for them to start a new club if they want to go through with it?
So it doesn't cost the company anything. So there are different models that you can have, where the company either pays for the employees, or like John said in his presentation, it's good to have the employees have a little bit of skin in the game. So I really like this question because I get to talk about my work club. So what my work club does is the member has to join the club on their own. And after the member joins, then the company ensures that you have to attend a meeting. You have to attend 6 meetings in a half year, and there's a certain tie to the membership. And if you complete that, then the company would refund the $45 US membership. But in terms of if you were to give them a number in terms of if they're trying to sort of do a calculation for the members, it's $45, the same as we pay in addition to the upfront fee. So there's no sort of cost to the company in addition to that, like a $2,000 to join the Toastmasters, or there's no additional cost. And I would just defer to Iona if she wants to add a little more on top of that.
Okay, so one of the things that I would suggest that you do, it costs $125 to sponsor a club, to charter it. And then you need, instead of asking them to pay for just 6 months fees, ask them to pay, that's $90 US per person, and you need a minimum of 20. And you just charter it for one whole year right through, because sometimes when it's part way through, you don't want to go back and ask for money again and again. So you just say, this is what it's going to cost, $90 per person. We need a minimum of 20 people on there, plus 125, and that is your cost. And then sell the features and benefits and say, we have a great educational program, the curriculum, this is the features and benefits. And you can directly work on the competencies and grade them as well. And you can get a monthly report, how many people attended, what they're working on. So you do the whole thing at the same time. But the cost, $125, $45 for 6 months, but I would suggest that you go to $90 for 1 year.
Yeah.
One shot paid.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful. I think I have the enthusiasm, but it's just the technical details. And knowing that helps bring confidence to going in and talking with someone that you can answer those little questions. So you find somebody in the club that's willing to be the sponsor. You find somebody that's willing to pay that small fee. And then I guess you also ask, do you have 20, 25 people that you know will benefit from more confidence, better speaking skills, better spontaneous speaking, better leadership skills. And I guess you ask for a list of contacts in the company that you can either email or they can email, and you can send them the information. Thank you so much, everybody. And I really, really enjoyed this session. It's really inspired me to go out and knock on doors and talk to people about Toastmasters.
Yeah. Here's a suggestion for you, Michael. I would suggest make up a sheet that just tells you what it costs, well, with 20 members. But I would suggest you ask for more. Always ask for more, because remember the 50% rule. 50% of the people will turn up to any meeting. So the more you can get, the merrier. And what we did was, can you get us 40 plus people in the room for the chartering meeting? And then you hand out the membership forms pre-filled and say, I'll do all the paperwork. All you need to do is sign, and here's what you do. And that's an easier way. Thank you.
Very good, very good. And just so you know, the 125, that's for a community club as well. That's just a standard initiation fee for the club. And now I'd like to give, I know Iona had a question for Ray. Iona, would you like to ask Ray that question?
Yes, Ray, you coached a club to success, a corporate club with, I think, less than 4 members. Can you share with us the success story about coaching a corporate club to success? And you're muted.
Yes, for the benefit of everyone, I'm from Markham Sweet Talkers, Toastmasters Club, and I only started to work on Toastmasters, my pathways, last year, March, the first week in March, because I'm a marathon runner, and it so happened that because of the lockdown, all the marathons were canceled, and I usually run one a month. So I try and travel the world doing them too as well. So I had to start with my level 1. And I said, well, I've been a Toastmaster since May of 2010, sorry. I've been there 10 years, 2011, May 2011, yeah. So I started working on this first path, and I said, I'll try and finish a path. By July, I'd completed the path, so I thought about, well, why not try for the DTM, because the lockdown is still on. And that's how I started. And as Iona mentioned, I sponsored a club that was disbanded, that had been tried to be resurrected twice, at least that I'm aware of, once by the area director there, but hadn't come to fruition. So we took that on with a sponsor, of course, and the two of us worked on that club, and then we coached Cornell Markham Toastmasters. Now that's a community club, and from what I've heard, it's a little tougher than a corporate club. On October 1st last year, only 4 members renewed. But we were able to get that club to President's Distinguished by May 27th of the following year. So what did we do? Well, it's a learning process because I had very little experience before coaching a club. I've done a lot of coaching in my lifetime because I've been a tennis coach for about over 25 years. I've also coached the marathon clinic because I'm a clinic instructor for another 15, 17 years. So I had those kinds of skills and I knew what it takes to get people going, because you know that if you coach a tennis group and they have 10 lessons, by the time you get to lesson 5, you have half or less of the attendees. The rest are gone. That's quite normal. So those are the little things I knew before. So it takes a while to learn initially how to get people, get the club going. So that club, believe it or not, we got to 8 just in March. We started in October and we made good standing in March. But we were also building membership at the other club that we sponsored. So it was a double task. So we put we got the other club chartered. By the end of February, we had over 20 members. So we concentrated on this club and we worked this club up and boosted the membership very quickly. And we had to get to 15, but we got to 17 at the right time. Now, what did we do? Well, one of the things that I found that is most important is you need to have a good website. And we had the Free Toast Host. I find that that's a very good site for attracting people, but you have to make it a little appealing. And we would get at least one, I call a hit means when someone signs up, okay? 1 to 4, up to 4 hits you can get a month. The key thing is to convert them. So what we did was, if they provided a phone number, we didn't just send them an email with a link and gave them what they wanted. We called them. So we wanted to ask to get a feel and for whether they're really interested, because people sign up for all different reasons. Some just to find out what the membership fees are, right? Some might be finding out for someone else. It's hard to tell. So we try to find that out and we try to sell the club by telling them a little bit about what they can expect to get should they attend a meeting. So if they say that they're going to come to the meeting, then we send them the link to the meeting. That's how we did it. So at the meeting, we now know that we're going to get a new person. So the club members, it's like auditioning, I feel. You're auditioning all the time, every week, especially when you have a new member, because you have to make sure they see value. So we make sure that someone always sends a welcome email in the chat, even though we welcome them verbally as well at the virtual meeting. So it's always a little nice touch. And we make sure that if we don't have their phone number or something, that we try to get it towards the end by someone asking them, say that we'd like to send you some more information if you're interested. You find a little way of getting more information. Those are the little things that help. Then we follow up, and if you can get them to come the second time, then you're in business. That's what we found. So we give them little carrots, try to entice them. We tell them what we do when they become a member. We send them an email welcome package. We tell them in the email that we're going to send you a role script. So all these roles that you hear, they will get a script. They will know how to act out and do them. We also tell them a first-time member, when they're taking on a role, they get a detailed personal script, and we do that for them. Those are the little things that help. When we sign them up, though, because all you're doing is you're increasing your chances of getting that member to sign up. When you sign them up, your job is just starting. People think that you got them yet, but no, you have to think, how are we going to retain them? We want to keep them interested, and we also want them to take charge and be a club officer in the future. So what we do as we go along is, some members that are new, they're scared to death of public speaking, and they don't want to do that icebreaker very quickly. Some jump right into it. So they're all different. So the ones that we sense are hesitant, what we do is I have personalized an evaluation sheet we send to them, and we tell them, when you're in a meeting and you're listening to a speech, if you don't have a role, you should pretend you're evaluating that role. And you're under no pressure because you don't have to give the report. So they follow the sheet with little things to look for in the speech. And then they listen to the official evaluator that is giving an evaluation, and they compare and say, well, I missed this, but I picked up on something that the evaluator didn't. So they're learning how to do a speech unknown to them, because if you know what to look for in evaluating a speech, you bet when you come to give a speech, you're going to know what your speech should have in it. That it's simple as that. So we treat the two as synchronous. In other words, giving a speech and giving an evaluation, because they're both speeches but in a different way. So gradually they gain some confidence. And that's how those are the little things when you're starting a club. If you have a guest at a club, I find, and I do that at our home club, Markham Sweet Talkers, and you may have one speaker only or no speaker, I make sure that I sign up right away at the start of the meeting to give a speech. And what I normally do is a workshop. So you can run, and I have different formats that I've developed over the time. And so you can give a workshop on the first speech, how you do an icebreaker, the basic structure of a speech. Because when a guest hears that, they learn something. They feel, I've never thought of that. Maybe I can go now and write a speech. We also don't put them under pressure and say you have to get up in front of the audience and speak ad lib. And we tell them, write it out. We teach them how to read it over and over so that when they get up, they're looking at the camera, they're reading it, but it looks as if they're reading it as if they're speaking. See? And we do that and we say that you have 2 levels to get proficient, because when you get to level 3, now you qualify to participate in the contest, right? So by that time, you should be speaking with no notes. So we gradually train them. First you read, then you have to memorize, right? Something, but before you memorize, you have like a cue card, just your 2 or 3 points, your subject matter, your 2-3 points, and your close. Those you're going to read, but you got to start being able to talk to the points without notes. And it's all, we tell them, it's all storytelling. You're sharing experiences that you know more than the audience. And so they're listening, they're knowing that I know my stories more than anyone else. So why should I be nervous? I'm telling a story that I'm the expert at it. So that's what you try to encourage them, and they become better. It's a long process. It's gradual. Wow. And I always leave with them 3 things, which I call the keys to success. In my 42 years, I've worked in the pharmaceutical industry, and I've learned it applies to not just work, but to any situation. And the first thing is you've got to develop good habits. In other words, coming regularly to Toastmasters, taking on a role, but not just taking it on, reading it before. A couple of times. You have to know that script a little. So it's a habit that you develop. The second habit I find is that you've got to realize that anything in life that you want to achieve of any significance takes time. We're always in a hurry. We think we can do it tomorrow when we just been assigned. But it takes time, and for different people, it takes different times, longer or shorter. We'll all get there, but it takes time. And the third and last thing is most important. You have to find ways of believing in yourself. Because if you don't think you can do it, you're not going to be able to do it. The high likelihood is you won't. So you have to now find ways of how you, and one of the ways is when you see yourself that you're improving. You can see, you can feel it. The other way is your spouse, your friends tell you, your co-workers, they say, wow, you're so positive today. Little things, hints they throw, it makes you gain confidence. And
Wow.
the other thing, you surround yourself with positive people. People aren't nice to you, they talk you down. It doesn't mean you're going to be not nice to them. You still are courteous and nice, but you don't associate as much with them. You associate with our Toastmasters because we are providing an environment that is very positive, right? We are encouraging everyone. So you want to be in that environment. When you do these little things, you find you start to believe a lot more in yourself. And as America's one of the most famous and successful evangelists, Joel Osteen, says, you never know what you're capable of doing until you put a demand on your potential. So I'll leave you with that. Those are my tips for today.
Very nice. Wow, that was so inspiring. Thank you very much, Ray, for sharing that. That was really, really inspiring. I took a whole bunch of notes, and I saw Iona also added some notes into the chat. I want to go on to someone who is also super inspiring in Division B. I met her a while ago, and she never fails to amaze me. Ava, would you mind? I see that you just signed up as a club coach. Would you like to maybe give us a bit of background in terms of why you're excited to take on this additional challenge? I know you're doing other things.
Thank you, Leslie, and hi, everyone. Okay, did I really want to take this on? I don't know. Club coach is a very challenging position, and I think John mentioned it before. You're starting off with a club that's already has challenges. It's not like starting a new club, all the excitement, and you get the new club smell, and everybody's all excited, and everybody goes, gung ho. You're in a club where they have challenges, and I visited this club, and I'm coaching two clubs. The new club that I'm coaching, I find that they have some challenges, but they have lots of potential. And I think all they need is just that helping hand to get them over that hump. And with COVID and it's a corporate club, not coming into work, they do have the challenges. I think they're workable. I believe I can get them back to a good state, and I'm challenging myself to get them over the 20 mark, because if you've got a healthy 20 member club plus, you can really work with them. And if some people don't show up, you still have exciting meetings. So I think my challenge is to get them maybe even to 25 if possible. It's quite a large corporation, but that doesn't mean that everybody wants to be a member. They do have HR support. They have good members in the club that are there right now. It's just that the numbers are very, very, very low, and that is going to be a challenge. I did coach another club and coaching another club, but on top of that, one comment was made to me. Well, you're coming here to get a point, because then you get a reward. And I'm thinking, yes, that's true. But if I'm going to be spending a year with this club, I think I'm more focused to help the club than really myself. And that is the biggest thing with coaching a club. When you're starting a club, when you're mentoring a club, those are two different things. When you're coaching a club, it's really, you have to have the passion to help them and to work with them. And it is a challenge because they are struggling. They are struggling. They don't know where to turn. And this is where you need to guide them. Moments of Truth is great if they're honest. But like with every club, you have to be honest and brutally honest with the moments of truth to really know the pulse of your club. If you're honest about it, you can address the situation if it arises or any problems that a club may have. So I'm working with 2 clubs right now, and hopefully I will get them both more than just charter strength. That's my challenge. Maybe 25. I want to get them really, really strong. So when I leave, they're really healthy. And even if a couple members drop off, they're still really healthy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eva, for mentioning that. I think I've myself had the opportunity to coach a club, Brampton Alpha, and I can tell you guys that was one of the most rewarding experiences that I've had in Toastmasters, because the club started out with about 4 members. And I remember I got this call from our division director at the time, Cindy Tate. And she's like, oh, we're having this info session and we have the president of the college. He's going to be coming over and we'd just like you to come and, help fill the room out. And that one day attending that meeting to help fill the room and take a role ended up with me staying with the club for about 2 years, because I went there, I eventually became a club coach because I saw the potential. We were meeting in a mall, and yet we didn't have many people at the meeting. And one of the first things I identified was that no one can find a meeting. I invited people so many times and it took them forever to get the directions we were meeting way down in an alley at the back of the college. It's inside a mall with so many people walking up and down outside, but no one knew. There was no signage. So I took the opportunity to meet with the college president, and I explained to him that we have this, club, we meet on XYZ days. Actually, I went there because he was supposed to be the guest of honor at one of the meetings, and they were trying to promote the club with the students. However, what I found out is that the reason why he didn't come wasn't because he wasn't interested. It's just that he was probably just shy about talking in front of all these people. And he heard about Toastmasters being this, this communication organization. And I just guess in my mind that he was just a bit nervous to be answering questions. So I took the opportunity. I met with him in his office. We had a really good conversation. We hit it off right away. And he didn't just allowed us. One of the things I heard before is that we're not allowed to put any signage in the front of, directing people to the meeting. I said, we are all the way down the back and we need a bigger room. He said, oh yeah, you can have a bigger room. I said, we need the signage. He said, yeah, no problem. Just, get your signs and put it up there. I said, we have our laptops and every now and again you have to go online. And sometimes I bring my my internet stick, but these are no worries about that. You can use our internet. He gave me access to the internet. And I think it's just about those relationships. It's not just about, being a coach and working with people in the club. It's about setting up that environment. So I like what Ray mentioned in terms of, working with members, being so understanding where they're at and what they need to get to in terms of their goals. So I would like to pass the podium over to Iona. I think she has a question for one of our other members.
Yes, I do have a question, and this question is for Cher. Cher, sponsoring a club is like lighting a match, sending the paperwork out, and getting this club starting. But mentoring a club is all about sustaining the knowledge, the curiosity, and your wisdom. Could you please share your wisdom as a mentor of a brand new club?
Yes, mentoring a club, you do have that whole new club smell. You do have the excitement and the enthusiasm, but what you don't have is experience or understanding in all those brand new baby members. So what I discovered as a mentor of a club, now we had an unusual situation, just to touch on it very briefly. we mentored a new club in Beausoleil First Nation on Christian Island, where the ferry service was unpredictable, and they had never experienced Toastmasters before. So lessons learned I'd really like to share with you from that experience is, no matter how enthusiastic they are, it is important to emphasize consistency, consistent meeting dates, consistent meeting locations, and don't move forward unless you have those. We had some real challenges around that at Beausoleil First Nation for a variety of reasons, the most important being the ferry service. But if you can really stay consistent, we quickly set up a Facebook page for the group with consistent messages and encouraging the local chief to make sure they were part of those consistent messages. Yeah, Eva's nodding. You can see she's like, oh yes, right? Every time you change something in a group that is brand new to the organization, you add confusion, and confusion equals no. No, I don't understand. No, I don't know what we're doing. I don't know where we're meeting. I don't know if I can handle this. In spite of massive inconsistency that we had at Christian Island, the results that we had within that group were significant. My favorite story is a young lady who heard actually my icebreaker speech, which said, say yes to new responsibilities. And we've heard that today. And she decided to join the police services board. It had never occurred to her that she could be a community leader, but having Toastmasters show up on the island, and I hope someday we will show up again on the island. We're Division N up here, used to be Division M. That consistent, and yeah, Iona, consistent meeting dates, times, location. They switched locations 3 times in the first 2 months. They lost so many people from that. They were trying to make everybody happy. You will never make everybody happy with your meeting date, place, or time. Decide and run it for a year. Unless you are running it and nobody's showing up at all, stay with your plan and say, patience and consistency will out. That's it. I am a DTM. However, I don't use that as a don't time me. It's ultimate respect for the time.
Very, very good. Very good. I really enjoy that. And what I take away from there is consistency. I think it's very important when you're in one of those roles to stay consistent and really, really show that you're fixed in terms of your ideas and your plan. And at this time, we just have a few minutes because we would like to end the meeting on time. I would like to open the floor to anyone else who would like to share a little bit of experience in terms of their role as a club sponsor, mentor, or club coach. Just unmute yourself. You're a small group, and let's hear your feedback.
I'd like to say to everyone, just do it. You remember the first time you did your icebreaker speech and you were concerned, and now you're at your DTM and you want to take your speaking level to just another level, perhaps even TED Talks. But you can't do it if you don't take that first step. So the joy in sponsoring a club is immeasurable. And if you've listened to the people around you, consistency is key. And remember this, in everything that we do, consistent actions equals to consistent results. So take on that role. To coach a club, it takes a lot of tenacity because you're working with people perhaps who don't want to change. But also know this, be wise. Know when to stay and when to walk away. Leslie.
Very good, very good. I really like that. You've re-emphasized the importance of consistency. And I think that's one of the reasons why this organization is still around after almost 100 years in existence.
100 years.
Yeah. Would anyone else like to say something quickly before I saw Rick, you came in, and Janet and Heather, if you'd like to add something to the discussion, I'd love to hear from you. Okay, I think we are at our time. It's now.
I can leave one last thought,
Yes, please, please do.
Leslie, and remember, you can only do your best, right? So the important thing is that when you take on a project like this or anything, you give it your all. You do the best you can, because at the end of it, you can look back and say, at least I did my best. It's when you think afterwards that you could have done more that it nags you for the rest of your life. But if you can sit back and say, at least I've done my very best, then you'll always be satisfied with what you've done. That's what I'd like to mention. Thank you.
Yeah, and that leads back to what John said earlier. I really like what he said. When you take on a role, you don't know, you have no idea what you're doing. Then halfway into the role, you're like, oh yeah, I wish I knew what I knew now when I started. And then when you finished your role, you're like, oh man, now I know, now I know exactly what I need to do to fill out this role. And now you're ready to move on to something else. I think that's what makes a lot of people actually stay in Toastmasters. When I joined Toastmasters, just to give you a quick story, I had no interest in joining Toastmasters. I was invited many times, but I actually joined because I wanted to practice French. I was learning French at Alliance Française, and it was costing me a lot of money. And then I heard about this French club where you can go and practice, do speeches and so on. I said, oh, that's a brilliant idea. So I jumped in. And that when I joined Toastmasters, then I realized there is so much more to Toastmasters, like Michael was saying. And interesting story, I was so excited about going to the meetings. I didn't realize on the fourth, our meetings was every Tuesday except the fourth Tuesday, which the fourth Tuesday used to be an executive meeting. And I don't know if it's my comprehension of the language or whatever. I turned up on the fourth Tuesday and someone said, oh, no, you don't need to be here. This is just for the executives. And one of the club coach at the meeting was Jocelyn Vazina. And she said, no, you can stay. There's no, if you're excited to be in a meeting, you can stay. And so I sat in. I didn't realize there was so much mechanics behind. I thought, we all just turn up, 20 people turn up to the meeting and people just take on roles and that was it. But then I realized that there's so much mechanics in terms of a meeting. And then something strange happened. The secretary for the club, she just dropped out. She had some other issues. And then they said, why don't you be the secretary? And I was like, okay, I can hardly understand half of this French stuff, but I took it on. And that was, the beginning of my journey, on the other side of Toastmasters. And I just continued and I never looked back, and I'm really enjoying being, in the working with the district. It's a fantastic opportunity. And anyone who's thinking about being a club coach, sponsor, or mentor, I would wholly encourage you to take that step, because it really opens up a whole world. Just like when Jocelyn Vazina say, stay, there's a little bit that you can pick up, there's something you can learn. And that's my little story. So unless anyone has anything for the good of Toastmasters, it's about the time to adjourn this meeting, and so that you guys can enjoy the rest of this amazing day. I'm looking outside the back of my house and it's really nice outside. Iona, do you have any final words?
Yes, I would like to thank Michelle Rich, our workshop chair, for organizing all these very amazing workshops. Michelle, you are very much appreciated. Thank you for being on our team. And I don't think we say it very often, but all that you do for our district just makes us stronger. So thank you, and thank you everyone, and have a really wonderful weekend.